You've brought up the issue of masks. What is your position on masks? Do they prevent the spread of this virus, which you've described as being similar to the flu in terms of its deadliness?
Of course, they do nothing of the sort. Masks mask wearing in public has never been shown to do anything except bad things. Nothing. Now, in the case of Corona, the case is clear as the sun is shining at the moment. You know, what is the one thought behind all this mask wearing in public, all right, in normal public? I'm not talking about nursing homes, I'm not talking about hospitals, of course. That's a completely different issue. So if the next room were the homes of the elderly with pre-existing illnesses who have to be protected, there's nothing to be said against wearing masks to protect them in the nursing homes, in the hospitals, or whatever. I'm just talking about this room, which is the public, okay?
Mm-hmm.
What are the thoughts behind, all this? The thought is that you who are not ill and I who am not ill may be spreading the virus without knowing. So I may be spreading, if we were in the same room, to you, and then you would get COVID-19, which is the illness, all right? Now, listen very, very carefully. There has been one single publication in the literature, in the world literature, that makes it probable that if I have contacted that virus and I'm going to be ill in 2 or 3 days, that in this short term, before I start coughing, okay, I may in fact give the virus to another person. All right? But that publication very clearly showed that this is a very rare event. It occurs rarely. And more important still, when it occurs, the fellow who gets the virus from me will never, ever get COVID-19. Never, ever get the serious illness. He may have a cough, or he may not be ill at all. He'll just get the virus and have the virus in his body for a few days, and then that will be bye-bye virus. All right? So it has never been shown at all that pre-symptomatic people will cause the disease in others. Am I being clear?
You're being very clear, also very scary, given everything that's happening.
Yeah.
But let me pick up on
one last thing. Why? The question is why, and this is where I have to speak my heart, because people have to understand this. All right, the PCR test. You stick this stupid swab down into the throat or nose, pull it out, and put it in the machine. And I told you this machine is not calibrated in any way to say there's enough virus to cause disease, okay? In the first place. In the second place, what you don't realize is that the concentration, the dose of virus that is sticking in your throat is at least 1,000 times higher than the stuff that comes out of your mouth when you start speaking. Even if you have a cough, and this has been shown for another coronavirus, the concentration of the coronavirus that comes out, the dose, is at least 1,000 times lower than what you have there. This means that if you cough the virus into another person's nose, the dose that he's getting is very, very low. Now, I don't know whether you can understand this, people without, any basic training or schooling in infectious diseases, but there is such a thing as the infectious dose that has to be met until you contact the disease. And there's another thing. For viruses like corona and flu, the more virus you breathe in, the more seriously ill you get. Okay, it's a matter of dose. The more vodka you drink, the drunker you get. But that is the reason why someone who does not have symptoms simply cannot get enough virus out into the air to make you seriously ill. It's so simple. And if, of course, you go into the next room where the elderly with pre-existing illnesses are, who are very, very vulnerable towards the virus, yes, then something bad could really occur. So don't do it. No one who has a cough should go to see someone who's seriously ill because he's dement, or he has a heart attack, or he's a stroke, or whatever you want, cancer. And even if you don't have symptoms, you go and visit someone who's seriously ill, you may want to wear a mask. Yes, nothing to say against that. But what we should not do is to have all our children masked here, to have all our elderly who need fresh air to stay alive wear masks. All right.
And Doctor, I mean, what you're saying is very, very worrying, because we've just entered the second day of a national lockdown. We've locked down the entire country. Why is it that our experts are saying we need to lock down? The NHS will collapse unless we lock down. This is a very, very serious virus. All the stories that we've been told. Why is it that these experts are saying this?
I don't know. But not all experts are saying this, by the way. I just told you that John Ioannidis, the leading expert in the world, is saying something completely different. And mind you, there is such a thing as the Great Barrington Declaration. I don't know whether you've heard about this.
We have.
Okay, so there's, thank God, a professor from Oxford and one from Stanford and one from Harvard. 3 wrote this declaration. And you probably will know that Michael Levitt, the Nobel Prize winner, also supports this declaration. And this declaration has now been signed by, I haven't looked at the last numbers, but the last time I looked, there were 35,000 physicians and scientists who had signed this declaration. I was one of them, of course. And this declaration has been signed by a total of at least 700,000 people. 700,000 people. So don't come telling me that all the experts are saying what you people are doing in Great Britain and not what the Germans are doing here, because certainly the voices, the dissenting voices, are now much, much larger in number than the voices that are trying to put this whole agenda through. In Germany, the major physicians, what is it called? The different associations of surgeons, of internal medics, and they have also signed this declaration, a German one, saying that they do not approve of the lockdown and that it's not in order. So we're looking at hundreds of thousands of experts and physicians around the world who are all saying the same thing. And it really is scary that despite this agenda is being driven.
Dr. Bhakti, so what is going on? Why are we, when I turn on my television, which is rare nowadays, but if I do, I look at the Prime Minister of this country, the leader of this country, flanked by the Chief Medical Officer and the Chief Scientific Officer, who are telling us that if we don't lock down, our national healthcare system is going to collapse. 4,000 people a day are going to die. Medics are going to have to triage patients and decide who lives and who dies. If you don't agree with this, you're killing granny, you're heartless, wear a mask, stay at home, save lives.
Yes, okay. Wasn't this what we heard 8 months ago? It's a sort of a repeat. It's a repeat, right?
Yes.
So 8 months ago, everyone believed it, and everyone conformed to everything that was being done, and then was done. And it turned out that the dissenting voices, at that time, we were one of the very few who dissented. John Ioannidis too. He also stood up. That was middle of March. I know exactly when everything happened. Okay? And it turned out that John and we were saying the same thing, and saying that all these model calculations were probably not correct. And it turned out that they were all wrong. They were wrong. And everything that your Prime Minister Boris Johnson said and our Merkel said was wrong. And now they're repeating it again. So why should you believe them? Why should anyone believe them? Especially since what they're saying now is untrue. It's not true that there's a second wave. Not true at all. They're rigging the numbers, and they're falsifying the numbers, and they're telling lies. This is the simple truth. You see, as you may know, this PCR test becomes more and more unreliable the fewer cases there really are. So if you go around testing people without reason, without symptoms, as has been done over the last months, you are asking for trouble in a big manner, because the number of positive cases will simply correlate with the number of tests that you perform, because there are always false positive tests. False positives, because this test is not perfect. In fact, it is very imperfect. But on the basis of false positive tests alone, you can say that, when other coronaviruses, when the flu virus is underway, which is the case now, at least 2% of those tests are wrong in the first place. So if you do, 1 million tests, then 20,000 false positive cases are going to be put into the records, and these 20,000 people are going to be sent into quarantine, and they don't have the virus. They just have a falsely positive test. So anyone with any inkling of epidemiology knows. Now, I'm not a professional epidemiologist. I'm a microbiologist, but I learned this. You see, when the number of cases falls below a certain level, you must stop testing people without symptoms. You just have to. Because you test them, you're going to get more false positives than true positives. And this is what's happening right now. So what Merkel is saying, where we've got 3,000 positives yesterday or 4,000 positives yesterday. So I said, of course you will. You did so many tests that of course you get these false positives. So what are you telling the guys? Why don't you tell them that the percentage of positives has never gone significantly above, well, it was around 2 to 3%, and now one day it went up to 4% or 5%. However, it turned out in retrospect that many labs in Germany, they were creating artifacts in the lab because they weren't performing the tests properly. So we had, a cluster of 60 cases down in Bavaria, in a region, and the people were completely healthy. And they said, we don't believe this. We want to be retested. And actually, you should retest every test which is not clearly positive, but that is not being done either in Germany. People just sent to quarantine. I guess it's the same with you, by the way. But you must demand a retest. So these said, we want to be retested. And it turned out that 58 were negative. They were all falsely, because the lab was and the lab then admitted that they had used the wrong reagent, they were short of reagents, they were short of manpower, they had no one to do the tests. And It was all wrong.
And Dr. Bhakti, I remember this was in April time. I remember I woke up one day and I was lying in my bed and I was thinking, there's only three ways to get out of this situation, really. There's number one, we carry on doing what we're doing and eventually somehow the virus will dissipate, but I didn't see that happening. There's option two, which is we just open everything up and we try herd immunity. Or there's option three, which is we have a vaccine. But when I was reading your book, the vaccine isn't going to be a panacea, which is what a lot of people have been claiming.
No. Let's go to scenario two, this business about immunity, which we have really gone to lengths to describe in the book. And anyone who's read the book and read the chapter on immunity and vaccination will know much, much more than Boris Johnson or Merkel or whatever you want. Because the whole business surrounding immunity and vaccination is fuzzy. There's very, very few people who have clear ideas about why we are immune to a virus like the coronavirus or the flu virus. And we describe in the book that there are two arms of immunity. One is the antibodies, which everyone knows about. So the antibodies prevent the attachment of the virus to the cell. The antibodies catch the virus, so the virus can't go to the cell, to my head. But these antibodies fight on a one-to-one, man-to-man. So if there's one virus, you need, a few antibodies, let's say 2 antibodies to stop it. But then the antibodies are bound. So if the second virus comes, it can't be stopped. Obviously, a matter of numbers, all right? And something that even Boris Johnson should understand. Should.
You're very kind to our Prime Minister. We are less so.
No, I think that he will, if he cares to listen. You see, the trouble about these people is they know everything already, so they don't have to listen to guys like me. But maybe they should listen to other guys like John Ioannidis. Or anyway. So the second problem is, what I'm trying to say is, even if you have antibodies, so you were vaccinated and you get antibodies, they're there, true. You can only be protected if the number of viruses is low. If that's simple. So this whole business about an immunity, health pass is stupid, because that pass doesn't tell you how many viruses you can deal with and whether you're going to be able to deal with virus someone coughs in your face, all right? The second very, very difficult thing about these antibodies is that, you get immunized, then the antibodies come and are there and may protect you from the virus. Yes, you're protected. But as months go by, the levels of antibodies just drop. You can't keep them up. Your immune system doesn't do work unless it's necessary, and it just stops, because these antibodies have to be produced and they have other things to do than produce antibodies that are not being used, all right? So after 2 or 3 months, even though you have this passport that says you are immune, you're not. And everyone wants to believe it. They are rather ignorant. And I cannot imagine that Boris Johnson doesn't understand this. Now, then what happens is, and this is happening all the time, you see, because we do have antibodies against the old coronaviruses, this is known. And these antibodies are able to catch the new virus to a certain extent, not as well as the old virus. And that's why you can still get infected with the new virus. That's why new infections do occur. However, what happens after the new virus now enters the cell? My head is the cell. Okay, this is the first time my head has become a cell, because it goes into my head, it multiplies. What happens is that as the virus is being multiplied in my head so that more viruses come out of my head and go to your head and infect your cells, all right? Waste products of the virus are just fall out. And these waste products, my cell, my head, shovels out through my nose and hangs like my glasses. So the waste products are now displayed on my head.
Right.
It's the first time I've done this, okay? So when this happens, the second arm of the immune system comes out, and these are the killer lymphocytes. It sounds good, doesn't it? Killer. If anyone, after having seen this, thinks that the killer lymphocytes in their body are made to kill bacteria or to kill viruses, then they have to go back and have a look at the book and at this video. Because the killer viruses, what they see, now where's the killer virus? This is the killer lymphocyte. My killer lymphocyte sees the waste product, sees the eyeglasses on your head and says, aha, something fishy is going on in the head. And I recall having seen these glasses before, because the glasses of the old coronavirus look like this. A little bit different. But still quite similar. And killer lymphocytes have long-term memory. They have a memory that goes on for years. So if they saw this virus last year, and this virus comes around this year or next year, they will still see it, you see. And what does a killer lymphocyte want to do when it sees the product of a virus that it recognizes should not have been produced? It tries to kill me. And in fact, it will come close to my head. And then what happens is the kiss of death. This virus will kiss the cell, which is supposed to kill, which is the own cell, the cell of my respiratory tract that dares to make the virus. Okay?
Yeah.
And then after the kiss of death has caused my head to die, this killer lymphocyte goes away and it can kiss a second time and a third time, you see? So the killer lymphocyte is really very, very, very powerful. And that's why, in the end, one killer lymphocyte can kill many, many virus-infected cells, and 1 million killer lymphocytes, and you have these, can kill so many virus-infected cells. It doesn't kill the other cells. It's only the cells with this waste product of the virus. And then you get up and go to work, if you have work, after Boris Johnson has put so many people to work. All right? And that's the end of the story.
And Dr. Bhakti as well, they're talking about, creating this vaccine, but there's never been a vaccine created against the coronavirus, has there?
I hope not. They were trying to create one against the SARS virus, and it failed dismally. It doesn't work. Look, the thing is this. 80 to 90% of the people who really contracted this virus did not become seriously ill because the infected cells were killed on time. They were infected, but the cells were killed on time, and the fire was extinguished. The factory was shattered and broken. So what we're saying is that 80 to 90% of you have sufficient immunity. What you want to call this, I don't care. Let's call it background immunity so we don't start quarreling. This is not herd immunity, it's background immunity due to your lymphocytes that recognize the old coronaviruses. We can stop at that. Now, this background immunity probably is there because lymphocytes in your body are present that recognize these eyeglasses. All right, we've come this far. The question was, when we wrote the book, do your killer lymphocytes really recognize the waste products of the new virus? All right. And we were just absolutely delighted when this publication appeared. A string of publications have now appeared since July that say, yes, 80 to 90% of the people running around here do have these killer lymphocytes in their blood. Well, 80% in their blood. And all right, there are only the lymphocytes in your blood are only less than 10% of the lymphocytes in your body, because over 90% of the other lymphocytes are in your spleen and your lymph nodes, and they just don't happen to be there when the blood is drawn and you want to test them, okay? So if 80% of the individuals already have killer lymphocytes in their blood that recognize these waste products, then you can bet your life that the other 20% have them in their spleen and lymph nodes. You just have to wait until tomorrow for them to do their patrol, you see?
Yes. Oh, Dr. Vakti, why did you say the vaccines don't work for coronaviruses?
Well, there are two reasons, If you go around putting a vaccine in your body, let's now take the gene-based vaccine that AstraZeneca is developing, and AstraZeneca has already sold to Merkel 54 million doses of the Astra vaccine, gene-based vaccine, have been reserved by our chancellor with our taxpayers' money. Okay, a vaccine that is damn dangerous, because if you put the vaccine in, then the gene is injected into your body, the gene of the virus, and this gene is supposed to make your cells produce the product against which, so produce the hands of the virus against which antibodies should be made. But as these viral hands are being made, waste products are also going to be created. And these waste products, again, the waste products of the hand will be similar to the waste products of the old coronaviruses, okay? So what happens then is that you have to be afraid that those people who already have the killer lymphocytes that recognize this will go and think that the cell that is making
they're going to start destroying healthy cells.
You're going to start attacking healthy cells.
Yeah.
And in fact, I can't prove this has happened. I just know that so many of those vaccinees got such serious side effects, pain, swelling, fever, headache, joint ache, muscle ache, that the protocol of this AstraZeneca trial had to be changed, which is not allowed actually, so that the next vaccinees received paracetamol, high dose, to alleviate them of the symptoms. And then the trial went on. But then two very serious side effects came. This was sort of transverse myelitis, which is, the spinal cord gets inflamed. No one knows why, but there are many reasons why one may think that an auto attack has been started by the lymphocytes on the nerves. Now, I won't go into this. It doesn't go the straight way. There might be turns around the corner, but it may be. So this is the one thing that makes the vaccine dangerous. The second thing that makes it dangerous is that, let's say you got past the vaccination, and now you have your antibodies, but you also have reawoken those killer lymphocytes to this virus and to the head. Okay, so this is like when you have a boxer, a coach in the ring. You have a round, and now he's coached you again, so you become stronger and more ready to fight. Now, when the real virus comes and overcomes the few antibodies that you have, and you get really infected, you will have so many killer lymphocytes ready that they might overdo their job, okay? And this would be an immune response dependent enhancement of immune enhancement, which ends in autoaggression again. You have an overdose of immune response. I don't know whether I made myself clear.
No, you've made it absolutely clear. I mean, the question that I want to ask you, Dr. Bhakti, and it's not a particularly fair one, but would you take the vaccine?
Of course not. I'm not mad. I'm not mad. Look, if you are under 70, your chances of dying because of this vaccine are minuscule. 5 out of 10,000 infected people under 70. Now, in order for a vaccine to get licensed, I don't know whether to get approved, it has to be shown to be effective. How do you show a vaccine to be effective? You have to show that it saves lives. But if you're losing 5 out of 10,000 lives, how are you going to show that that number is going to be reduced by a vaccine? You can't. You will never reach statistical significance, because if it goes down from 5 to 3, it's not significant. All right, sorry. So forget it. Why should I want to be vaccinated?
That's a very, very powerful point, Dr. Bhakti. We're starting to run out of time. Let me ask you one more question before we ask you our very final question, which is about lockdown. Now, you've made yourself very clear you don't think we should be doing lockdowns. You don't think we should be doing anything, actually, in dealing with this virus, because you believe it's no worse than the flu.
I don't believe it. I know it. It's been shown.
Sure. I'm not disputing it. I'm just trying to simplify it for our viewers and listeners. That is your position. In terms of the lockdown, then, obviously, governments all over the world have decided to do that. And according to our government's own estimates, as a result of lockdown, up to 200,000 people may die from deaths as a result of lockdown. That is, people not being diagnosed with cancer on time, heart disease, depression, suicide, mental health problems. You can go down the list of all the different causes of death. And then, of course, there's economic recession, which leads to poverty, which also kills people. Suicide, right? So, do you feel that the governments have made a decision that is essentially, in attempting, as they claim, to save lives, actually what they're doing is killing way more people than they're saving?
Of course they are. And I can tell you that lawyers around the world are now going to bring thousands of cases to court and to bring those people to justice. I know that the first cases are being filed next week here in Germany. And I know that the British are also going to be taken to court. I hope the right ones are going to be taken to court, and I hope they're going to be punished, because what they are doing is criminal. It is simply criminal. This is what not only I am saying, but thousands and thousands of people are saying. And it's not a matter of belief. We know that people have died. We know that people are dying around the world because of these lockdown measures. Millions of people in India have starved to death and are starving to death. And it's simply inhuman to do what they are doing. It is inhuman.
And I think that is a very, very powerful point to end the interview on, Dr. Bhakti. Thank you so much for coming on. We really do appreciate it. We always end our interviews with the last question, which is always the same, which is?
What's the one thing we're not talking about that we really should be?
We should be talking about why and how has our society allowed these things to happen? How and why? And we must strive to get answers to those so that this will never happen again.
Dr. Bhakti.
Thank you very much. And of course, before we let you go, again, we appreciate your time very much. For people who want to familiarize themselves with your argument and your book, the book is called COVID False Alarm. Where can people buy it and have a read of it? And also, if people can follow you online somewhere and read your thoughts, let us know that as well.
Well, I think you can buy the book anywhere in any bookstore in England now. It's called Corona False Alarm.
Corona, sorry.
Yes, it's being distributed worldwide. It's also being translated into 8 other languages, by the way, including Chinese, which is appearing next week. So there is a demand for this book, and we hope many people read it. We're not earning from this book. We just want people to have knowledge in their head and understanding for a subject that is not really that difficult. So it's been written in a way that anyone can and will understand.
Corona False Alarm. Dr. Bhakdi, thank you so much for coming on the show, and thank you all for watching. We will see you very soon with another episode or a live stream. All of them go out 7 p.m. UK time.
Take care and see you soon, guys.
Thanks for watching, guys. As always, subscribe to the YouTube channel, click the bell button next to the subscribe button so you get notified when a video comes out, and follow us on all the social media @TriggerPod.
And also leave us a nice review on iTunes and spread the word.